So running. DJ, I can't tell you how many times I get the question of how much you're running or how much we put running into the program, how much you should be running if you're in selection or in the military. What are your thoughts, man?
I used to love running growing up. I loved sprinting, I loved distance running, I loved all of that. But based on my body type, my body wants to be an Ethiopian, I just won't allow it. And when I run, I lose weight exponentially faster than anybody else I know. So if you're training for a selection course, you have to run. That's part of the prereqs, and 99.9% of all selection courses are a running component. And if you're not a good runner, you have to run in order to get good at running. In order to know how to pace yourself, fighting against headwinds, and all the little ancillary things that go in there. Your stride, your gait, just everything you need to know, you get it through running. I haven't met anybody who's a phenomenal runner who watched a PowerPoint video or a YouTube video and learned how to run. Unless you put feet on the ground and actually propel yourself forward, you're not going to develop your running cadence and really know how to do it. So I think everybody should be able to run. I think people get this misconception is you have to be a distance runner to be a special operator or to be a tactical athlete. You have to have a huge distance running component. Like you should be able to just go out and cold bore a half marathon. In my opinion, if you can run 6 miles, you can run 12. If you can run 12, you can run 24. You just have to run longer. It's like the David Goggins approach. Just do it. You can. It's very different when you have to hit a time wicket. Like for this selection course, you have to run 3 miles in under 22 minutes. That's a trainable event. You need to be able to train for that. Do I think the tactical athlete needs to be able to hold that the entire time? No. I think you're better off training for selection, getting through selection, and then tailoring your running program to best suit the job you're about to do. And some guys, they get really, really good at walking long distances and then focus on sprint work, agility, proprioception, rapid change of directions. They get more out of that and it's more tactically applicable than it is being a straight line distance runner, right? Flat terrain, pavement, and New Balance shoes. It's not a thing. It's uneven terrain, it's rocky, it's hilly, it's slippery, it's all these different things. I do like the ability of being able to transition and put feet on pavement, generate force, and sprint. I love sprints. Short, 50 meter, 100 meter, 200 meter, 400s, 800s. I love that component, and I think that's very, very useful. What I see a lot is people think that they have to run to keep their weight down. And the majority of people I see, that's the only reason they run is to try to keep their weight in control. And the longer that I've been training, I've realized through myself and a bunch of other guys that I've trained with, if you're trying to run to lose weight, it's done in the kitchen, not on the treadmill. And you can get more out of it with a well-balanced diet and doing low-impact training for longer durations to get that fat burn component. But, I'll steal this one from you. Keep the main thing the main thing. If the main thing for me is speed and power right now, I probably don't need to be doing an 8-mile conditioning run before I walk into the gym. And a lot of people mix that up. Like, well, it's easier for me to knock out my run first thing in the morning, then I go to the gym. I would not be able to do a third of what I can do on Thursday heavy leg day if I did even a 3-mile run before. I'm shot. So if you want to do that, I would save that for an off day. Like we do a press day on Tuesday. If you want to run later that evening, like post dinner, send it, dude. You want to take a 2-hour break, get in a contrast shower, then go out and run, do that. But I'm really on line with you. Keep the main thing the main thing. If running's your main thing, brother, you got to run. Mm-hmm. If it's not, then why are you running? Is it because you love it? If you love it, hammer down and go. But if you're trying to build a more capable vessel, you're trying to get bigger and stronger, running's probably not going to get you there if you do it before. So being mindful of when you start to add it in. And guys ask me all the time, like, why don't you do 4-mile conditioning runs anymore? Because I'm never going to be put on a stopwatch again. Like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to run for fat burn aspect. We still sprint, and I'm still fast.
Yep.
Like, I'm still as explosive as I want to be. But for me, just because of the hip injuries, when I pound on the pavement for even a mile, even 2 miles, I feel it for days afterwards. Just the arthritis builds up, and I feel like it puts me in a spot that's really hard to dig myself out of. But if we wanted to train for it, instead of doing those 20-minute walks, I would do speed walks, and then I would do jogs, and then I would go to run, and then I would go sprint, and then I would add another lap, and then I would slowly but surely build myself. And that's what we talked about here. Like 2 laps around this building is 1 mile. Mm-hmm. If I run at a conversational pace, I'm roughly at an 8.5, 9-minute mile, just cruising. Well, what happens if I sprint it? Then what can we do? Well, let's do 4 laps. Let's do 8 laps. Let's start to build up our capacity. But I'm doing it because I'm training for, my kids want to run a half marathon. Well, that's how I train for it. I'm not trying to keep that up to duration because it's not what my end goal is right now. When I run, I'm sprinting in short durations, 100 meters, 200 meters, as fast as humanly possible. And with that, just in my normal daily wear, I'm not in Lululemon shorts with running shoes on. That's just not how I run around. So I don't train myself for, it's just like weighing in. Like, I don't weigh myself slick down naked because I never walk around out in town naked. I weigh myself in whatever I'm wearing, right? It's my true power. So can I sprint in everything I have on right now? Yeah. Right.
Running is a very polarizing conversation. It's almost one of those things that running is like a badge of honor. Where they pride themselves in being a runner. And I love that. Any sort of physical activity that promotes wellness and positive energy, dude, by all means, I don't care what it is. If it makes you feel good, makes you feel happy, makes you a better person, like, keep doing it. But it's always the question for me that I always ask, is I always try to ask why twice. Because normally you can kind of discover why. Like, hey, well, I'm trying to figure out when I should run more. Okay, why? Well, I just need to improve. I'm tired of getting tired when I'm going upstairs. Why? Well, I'm just tired of being out of breath. Okay, well, if you're just tired of being out of breath and you need to get in better shape, your heart does not care. Your heart and your lungs do not care what exercise you choose. It can be bike. It can be walking on an incline on a treadmill, like you mentioned. It could be jogging. It could be walking fast. It could be anything. When it comes to getting your heart rate up. So then it's like, okay, well, you're choosing running. All right, check. All right. Well, running isn't bad for everyone, but running might not be fit for everyone. If I was 200 pounds, running would feel a lot better than me being 230 pounds right now. Like, running is a lot. I can sprint, my joints feel good, but if I go longer than 2 miles, oh, I feel it. My hips feel it, my feet feel it, like it doesn't feel fun. My lower back starts to get a little, like that's not a fun feeling. So I'll choose to maybe ride my bike to get more of that heart rate effect. But it's like, where are you at with your training, with where you're at professionally? So like right now, you don't have to run. And honestly, when you were doing how often did you run?
After I got through selection, I didn't.
It was like you were walking, like maybe at an expedited pace and maybe like a burst, but you weren't jogging in.
No.
To an X. Like, you weren't jogging into anything.
No, and I mean, some of our sprint work would be extremely heavy sled pushes. We drop it and then finish the sprint. So if it's a 100-meter sled push, we'd push it for 25, drop it, and then blow through out of the gate as fast as humanly possible, stop and reset. We drag and reverse, let it go, 180-degree turn and sprint. Rapid change of direction, power into the floor as fast as you can go. Like that kind of usable stuff. I pick up have you ever picked up one of those 240-pound mannequins that we have, the training dummies? That is extremely difficult to do. So we would drag that thing back, throw it over your shoulder, ass over tea kettle, and then take off in a sprint. Pick it up through your shoulder and run 50 yards. Like, usable stuff that's applicable to you, but really just get comfortable in moving your vessel rapidly. I've got to be able to move this thing because more often than not, you're not in a slick-down component. Outside of the training field, that's not what you wear. You have a bunch of stuff on you, and if you never challenge yourself inside of that, to me, it doesn't really translate well. You take a guy who's a distance runner, a marathon runner, we'll throw 80 pounds on him. Very, very different. For us, there's that hybrid approach. Like, I love running too. There was nothing better before I had my injuries and going off and throwing an iPod and just sending it for an hour. It's kind of like active meditation. Like, if running's not hard for you and you're just getting it for the therapeutic benefits, I loved it, dude.
Yeah.
It was something very therapeutic about just, what are you doing? I'm going on a run, and just send it. I love it. Yeah. I'm not trying to burn it down. I'm trying to just realign with myself. And running was a really good way for me to do that. For
me, I look at running it's a tool. Like you said, if I'm preparing for selection or a PT test, I know the goal. I need to run, an 8-minute mile. Okay, then I should structure my training to be able to run an 8-minute mile. That doesn't mean I need to be running 3 miles. I'm only going to run 1. So how do I get faster at running 1 mile? Like you said, selection, that's a huge base of that thing. You're running every single day. You told me you're running to the chow hall and buds. It's like you're running all the time. So it's like that should be a huge part of your training. But after that, like, why are we doing it? I almost look at, once you get past that, is now aerobic work is more specific. Like, I care less of how far you can run and more how can you control your heart rate during strenuous situations. Like you said, picking up something, carrying it, does your heart rate spike and now you can't make decisions, you're kind of flustered, you're heavy breathing, you're bent over? That's a problem. Versus, oh, I can run 8 miles. Okay, but can you carry something 100 feet, 250-pound person? Can you go upstairs? Can you do something stressful and then bring your heart rate back down and make a good decision? Because more than likely, if you're in the tactical profession, you're not doing any hard decisions with a low heart rate.
True.
Something's happening and a car door opens and you have to make a really finite decision with your heart rate through the roof. You're running down a suspect, now make a good decision. You're running into a house, who am I grabbing first? Like, you do something like that, it is heart rate up, make a decision. So for me, when I think about running, I think about aerobic capacity, I think about any of those things. To me, it is decision buffering. Like, how can we improve the aerobic system so that when you need it and you need to rely on it, that you can make good decisions that you would be comfortable telling people about the next day. So to me, that's what I think about. It's not just, oh, I need to run. No, you don't need to run. You could ride a bike. You could do all these other things. It's just, to me, it's not getting wrapped up in the word unless you need to do that word, like you said, which then, no shit, you need to run.
I mean, you see so many guys when you transition over, and I'll just say all areas of special operations, it's police, it's everybody. So many guys got away from running and started doing Fight Club full time because of the aerobic capacity, because now that directly aligns with my job. And if you've ever had somebody your size get on top of you and won't let you go, that's a freak out moment. Like, now make a good decision. If I lift my chin up 2 inches, he's going to wrap his arm underneath it and it's over for me. Like, you have to make good decisions throughout this entire process. And fighting was a great option. But easy on my knees, it's bad on some other joints, but it translates directly over to everything else. It's like, now am I going to do a little bit more, cardio focused work. Now I'm going to sub in Fight Club. Now I'm going to lift. Now I'm going to be strong. I'm going to fight. And then I'm going to do long walks and incline treadmill. Now I've got it all. I get the fat burn component, get my explosive component, get my hands moving. Really, I feel like that really connects all the dots. But yeah, I mean, guys ask me all the time, like, I feel like I'm losing it because I'm not running. What's the goal? You're trying to be stronger? He's like, well, I'm trying to gain 20 pounds. Stop running.
It is so crazy how backwards the industry is that people still think that's a thought process. But I hear it all the time. Like, hey, can we run more? Hey, dude, we have sprints once or twice a week. We have bike intervals, and we always have some sort of low threshold walk, and we walk by itself every single day. Like, if you're eating a clean diet and you're doing all of those, if you're a professional, you're covering all of your bases. Now, if you're getting prepared for something, then you might need to run more because you're going to have to run. But if I told you in 2 months you were going to have to do an open water 5-mile swim, you're probably going to start swimming. Like, well, would I swim all the other times? No. But you do have to swim for that test. So it's like that. Maybe if you have to do a PT test once a year or something, it's like you structure your training so that at the tail end of that, you're getting back into or improving aerobic conditioning is one of the easier things to do from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
Improving strength, getting more powerful, being more explosive, those are definitely more difficult.
They are, especially if your training is not going to allow you the ability to grow from that. Right? You want to go in like, I really want to do a 500-pound back squat. Walk me through your day. He's like, I wake up in the morning, knocking a 5-mile run straight into the gym. Like, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Like, you have to be able to separate things and keep the main thing the main thing. Guys hit me up all the time. Like, I really want to get in the running, but I'm also trying to gain 25 pounds. It's going to be a very hard thing to do, my friend. It just is. Like, if you stick with our natural progression, I mean, we're, at a minimum, you should be walking 10 miles a week. You knock out 20-minute walk Monday through Friday, and you do one after dinner, 10 miles a week. Like, pretty easy. You're doing that Saturday and Sunday. Now we add in one after lunch, like 21 miles a week now. Like, I mean, you can get the fat burn stuff out of the way. It's like, if you enjoy running, programming on the days where it's not lower body intensity. Right?
You said it earlier, and the exercise order that you choose should dictate your goals. So when you keep saying main thing, it's literally my favorite thing. It makes me feel good every single time, if I'm being honest. But if I want to be, like you said, you only get so much battery a day. Like, say you start out at 100% and you got squats that day. Why in the hell would I do anything that takes away from a detailed multi-joint movement of a squat that's very complex with fatigue from running, when I can just run or walk on a treadmill for hours after a squat and there's no form? But why would I fatigue my nervous system? So it's almost like understanding, like, your nervous system only has so much bandwidth throughout the day. And if you smoke that on an easy task like running, of course you're going to be fatigued for the bench. Of course you're going to squat less. Whereas if you want to run and you want to include those things, we put those at the tail end. That's why we always include those in the program at the end. Are you going to add additional running or aerobic work? At the end. Because we don't want to take away from the complexity of those big compound movements.
And to me, I feel like a lot of the confusion are some of these freaks that live on the internet. You'll see the guy, he's like, today, I'm going to do a 400-pound bench press. I'm going to deadlift, triple body weight, and then I'm going to run a mile in 6 minutes or under 5 minutes, whatever it's going to be. Like, there's a handful of those guys out there. A handful of those guys on the entire planet. What they're not telling you is they've been training for that the entire time. That's not their norm. Let's see him do it at 50. That's not the norm, and it's not what the professionals are doing. It's like he's training that to prove a point, like it can be done. He's a unicorn. That's a physical unicorn, and hats off to you. That's not the majority of people, and we have to look at it. I'm a normal person just like everybody else. And I get the runner's high, and I used to get the runner's high, and everybody talks about that. In my opinion, I have never felt the runner's high translate to a back squat within the hour. I've never felt like I end a badass run, like, whew, let's load it up. I've never had it. Never. Like, I unrack, my knees already shaking. I'm like, my central nervous system is already shot. It's already so taxed. And like, now I'm going to put myself in a really compromising position with a lot of load on my back. Could be in a suboptimal position in the basement. Now I don't have any way to get out of it. What do I start to do? I start to buckle. I start to panic. Like, you're one wrong exhale away from throwing at your lower back or tweaking something. Now you're down for 3 weeks. It's like, you got to be really, really smart. I'm all about the guys running. I would tell you, keep the main thing. If you're trying to get bigger, stronger, faster, get bigger, stronger, then get faster. There's a reason it's in that order.